Grand Obsidian Hotel had never looked more beautiful, and Zara had never felt more like a prisoner inside something beautiful. Crystal chandeliers dripped light across 100 guests dressed in silk and money. White roses climbed every column. A string quartet floated music through the air like something borrowed from a dream. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city glittered 40 floors below. Everything had been planned perfectly. The flowers, the champagne, the seating arrangements. Everything except what Dorian was about to do. Zara felt it before it happened. That specific stillness that settled over him right before the explosion. She had learned to read it the way sailors read weather a euro, not because she wanted to, but because survival demanded it. His jaw had been tight all evening. His hand on her back pressed just slightly too hard. Not hard enough for anyone else to notice. Hard enough for her to feel it all night. She was 27 years old, wearing a gown that Dorian had chosen, standing in a venue Dorian had booked, surrounded by Dorian's version of their love story. They had been engaged for 11 months. She had been afraid of him for 9. "You embarrassed me," Dorian said through his teeth, still smiling at the crowd. His hand slid from her back to her wrist. Not a grip. A warning. "You called Hargrove the wrong name in front of his entire team. I corrected it immediately euro. You corrected it in front of him, which made it worse." His fingers tightened. "You cannot do one simple thing." Across the ballroom, her cousin Imani watched from near the bar with a champagne glass frozen halfway to her lips. Imani had been begging Zara to leave Dorian for 6 months. Tonight, looking at her cousin's face, Zara could not remember a single reason she had not listened. The speeches began at 9. Dorian released her wrist, stepped onto the elevated platform, and the room turned toward him the way rooms always did. That was his particular genius euro, the ability to make every space belong to him within seconds. "Tonight is about legacy," he said warmly. "About what we build and who we build it with." Applause. Zara stood at the edge of the platform and smiled at people who did not know her. "I want to talk about my fianca copyright symbol E." Dorian turned to her. Something shifted behind his eyes euro, something cold moving beneath the warmth. About what it really means to trust someone. To expect them to be worthy of what you have given them. The applause softened. The room grew still. "Zara," he said, his voice dropping just enough for her to hear the ice beneath it, "why don't you tell our guests what you have been doing for the last 4 months while I was in Singapore?" Her blood went cold. "Tell them," he said, still smiling. "Or I will." "I know about Levi," Dorian announced, his voice slicing across the room. "I know about every meeting, every photograph, every conversation you thought was private." He paused 3 seconds for effect. "She has been feeding confidential information about my business dealings to my competitor. My own fianca copyright symbol E. The woman wearing my ring." Whispers erupted. 100 phones appeared. The accusation was so enormous, so precisely constructed, so completely without truth that Zara had no idea where to begin dismantling it. Levi was her childhood friend. Their meetings were coffee and conversation about his dying mother. Nothing else. Nothing. But the room did not know that. The room only knew what Dorian was selling. "I think it is time for you to leave," Dorian said, stepping off the platform toward her. "Take the ring off. Give it back. And get out of my event." He reached for her arm. And from somewhere at the back of the room, a voice said euro quietly, without any hurry at all. "Get away from her." If this story already has you gripping your phone, you are not alone. Hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you are watching from, because this is where everything flips and nobody sees it coming. The voice had not been loud. That was the thing that silenced the room. It carried no shout, no raised aggression, no particular edge. It was quiet the way a very deep river is quiet euro, completely still on the surface, and absolutely devastating beneath. Dorian turned. The crowd parted without being asked, the way crowds instinctively part for something they recognize as dangerous. And there, standing at the back of the ballroom on no guest list, was a man who looked like he had stepped in from a completely different world. Korean. Broad-shouldered. Mid-30s, with a face that was sharp and composed and gave away absolutely nothing. He was not the tallest man in the room. He was not the loudest. He was simply standing still, hands in his pockets, dark eyes fixed on Dorian with a kind of calm that is far more threatening than rage. Zara did not know him. Not at all. "Who are you?" Dorian asked. Some of his Polish had already disappeared. The man walked forward. Slowly. Like he had no reason to hurry. The crowd kept parting €100 people moving without consciously deciding to. "My name is Kang Seo-jin," the man said. "And I said get away from her." Dorian squared his shoulders. "You are at a private event. You were not invited. Security Euro. Your security team has been standing at the East Corridor for 4 minutes doing absolutely nothing," Seo-jin said, "because 2 of them recognized me when I walked in and made a choice." A pause. A smart one. Dorian stopped. For the first time all evening, something crossed his face that Zara had never seen there before. Uncertainty. Raw, unfiltered uncertainty. "The accusations you just made about this woman," Seo-jin continued, stopping 5 feet away, "are false. Every single one. You have no idea Euro. Levi Osei is her childhood friend whose mother has stage 3 cancer," Seo-jin said. "Their meetings were at Grounded Coffee on Meridian Avenue, every other Thursday, always public, always about his mother's treatment options. Never once about your business." He held Dorian's gaze without blinking. "The leak in your organization came from your operations director, Brennan Cole. He has been selling your data to 3 competitors simultaneously for 14 months. I have the transaction records if you want to see them." Complete silence. 100 phones recording every word. "Who are you?" Dorian asked again. Smaller. Hollowed out. Seo Capital Group holds 42% of the investment portfolio funding every development project your firm is currently contracted to build, Seo-jin said. 1 phone call before midnight tonight and you wake up Monday morning without a single active contract. He tilted his head, barely perceptibly. "You publicly humiliated this woman using a fabricated lie in front of 100 witnesses. I want you to think very carefully about your next move." Dorian looked at the crowd. At the phones. At 100 faces watching him with something that was no longer admiration. He stepped back. Seo-jin crossed the remaining distance to Zara in 4 steps. He stopped beside her and looked at her directly for the first time, properly. Up close, his eyes were darker than she expected. His expression was not soft exactly, but it was not frightening either. It was something she did not yet have a word for. "Are you hurt?" he asked quietly. Her hands were shaking. "No. Can you walk?" "Yes." He nodded once. "Then walk with me." And in front of 100 witnesses, with phones recording from every angle, Zara Mensah slid the engagement ring from her finger, placed it on the white-clothed table beside her, and walked out of the Grand Obsidian Hotel ballroom beside a man she had never once met before tonight. Don't scroll without subscribing. Drop a comment right now what do you think Seo-jin's real reason is for walking into that room? This part is about to answer everything. The corridor was cold after the heat of the ballroom. Zara's heels clicked against marble and she was acutely aware of how completely strange the last 10 minutes of her life had been. She kept waiting for the shaking in her legs to stop. It didn't. They reached the elevator bank. He pressed the button. Silence. "You did not have to do that," she said. "I know. You don't know me." "No," he agreed. The elevator opened. The doors closed and suddenly it was just the 2 of them in a mirrored box going down, and Zara caught her own reflection and barely recognized the woman looking back. Mascara slightly smudged. Jaw set hard. A champagne gown that belonged to someone else's life now. "How do you know all of that?" she asked. "About Levi. About Brennan Cole." Seo-jin looked at her reflection in the mirror rather than turning. "I had your situation investigated 3 weeks ago." Zara turned to look at him directly. "Why?" Something shifted in his expression. "Just enough to matter." Dorian Ashworth has been trying to pressure a land acquisition my family owns by fabricating leverage against people connected to me. You were not the first person he set up with a false accusation. He paused. You were just the first one I could reach in time. The elevator opened onto the lobby. Zara stopped and turned to face him. Fully a euro really looked at him, the way she had not allowed herself to upstairs, without the noise and the performance and the fear crowding everything. She noticed for the first time that he looked tired. Under all that composure, there was an exhaustion that did not come from a single bad night. So this was about the land, she said. Partly. What is the other part? He was quiet a moment. When he spoke, his voice had lost one careful layer of control. My younger sister was in a situation like yours 4 years ago. Different man. Same pattern. He looked toward the lobby doors. She did not have anyone walk into the room. Zara said nothing for a long moment. Outside, the city moved in its indifferent Friday way. Euro taxes and laughter and people who had no idea her entire life had just been dismantled and rebuilt in 40 minutes flat. Where will you go tonight? He asked. My cousin Imani. A quiet exhale. She has been telling me to leave Dorian for 6 months. She is going to be completely insufferable about being right. Something moved across Seojin's face. Not quite a smile, but unmistakably close. That sounds like someone worth having, he said. She is the best person I know. Zara looked down briefly. Most of my things are at his apartment. I cannot go back there tonight. You shouldn't. He reached into his jacket and produced a plain dark card with only a number on it. My team can have your belongings collected and delivered wherever you need. Tonight. He won't be informed. Zara took the card and looked at it. You are very prepared for situations like this. I prefer to be prepared for most situations. She looked up. Are you always this quiet? Usually. It is unnerving. I have been told that, he said a euro, and it was definitely close to a smile now. Zara tucked the card into her clutch. Her hands had stopped shaking. She could not say exactly when, but somewhere between the elevator and this lobby, the trembling had quietly stopped. Kang Seojin, she said, testing the name on her tongue. Yes. Why do I feel like tonight is not the last time I will hear that name? He looked at her. Those dark, unreadable eyes that were somehow easier to hold than she had expected. Because it isn't, he said simply. Zara held his gaze for 3 full seconds. Then she nodded a euro, the way a person nods when they have made a quiet decision about something they haven't yet named. Thank you, she said, for walking into that room. For knowing the truth when he was loudly selling a lie. For being the one person who actually did something. You were already looking for the door, Seojin said. I just made sure it was open. Zara thought about that. About 9 months of reading weather in a man's jaw. About Imani's voice on the phone every week. About the ring sitting 40 floors above them on a white tablecloth, belonging to absolutely no one. She turned toward the lobby doors. Stopped. Looked back over her shoulder. Your sister, she said. Is she okay now? For the first time all evening, something real and completely unguarded moved across his face. Quick. Almost invisible. But she caught it. She is, he said. She took a long time to trust quiet rooms again. But she got there. Zara nodded. Good. That matters more than people know. She walked out into the night. The door closed behind her. The city received her a euro, and for the first time in 9 months, the air outside did not feel like something she had to endure. It felt like air. Just air. Cool and indifferent and entirely hers. Upstairs, 100 people were still talking. The videos were already live. By morning, Dorian Ashworth would be trending for every wrong reason, and the name Zara Mensah would carry words like *dignity* and *strength* from strangers who had watched her walk out with her spine straight and her ring left behind like a door she had finally chosen to close. In the lobby, Seojin stood alone. He pulled out his phone, texted his operations director about Zara's belongings. Then he opened a thread he had not touched in 4 years, a euro, his sister's number. I walked into a room tonight, he typed. Like you always said someone should have. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Tell me everything, she wrote. He looked at the lobby doors where Zara had disappeared into the Friday night. Later, he typed. But it went well. 4 words came back instantly. You finally did something. Seojin put his phone away. Pressed the elevator button. And as the doors slid closed around him, he smiled, a euro small and private and belonging to no one else in the world. That's it, and something about it feels like a beginning, not an end. If this story hit you differently, you already know what to do. Subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. Should Zara and Seojin meet again? Because something tells me this is only the first chapter.